Welcome again, my dear students from Ishtar Private School, 5th grade. Today, I will explain the second step of the reported speech, which is the reported questions. Change the verb tenses and the pronouns as you do when reporting statements. As you remember from our previous lecture, we concentrated on two things: the pronoun changes and the verb changes. And we gave examples about the verb changes. For example, present simple becomes past simple, or a present continuous becomes past continuous, past simple becomes past perfect simple, and so on. Questions become statements when they are reported. Follow these steps. When the questions begin with the question words, WH questions, you should begin your sentences by putting the subject and then the verb asked, followed by an object or without it. Number 4, question word like how many, where, how much, when, etc. Number 5, the subject. And number 6, the verb after change. Number 7, complement of the sentence. 8, delete the auxiliaries does, do, or did. It means that when there are these auxiliaries in sentences, just like does, do, or did, you should delete them and depend on their tenses to change the main verb. 9, delete the quotations and the question marks. Let me give you some examples. Number 1, where is the new library? This is a direct question because it began by the question word and followed by the verb is and the subject, the new library. When I want or you want to report this question, you should write the subject first, followed by the verb asked because it is a question or a reported question, followed by an object, or you can delete it, and then the question word, the subject, and the verb after change from present simple to past simple is becomes was. He asked me where the new library was. Number 2, what does Layla study at university? This sentence, as you see, is in the present simple because of the auxiliary does. It began with the question word, followed by the auxiliary, the subject, the main verb, which is infinitive, at university, the complement of the question. When we report it, it becomes she, the subject, asked, and followed by the object me, the question word what, the subject Layla, the verb after change from a present simple to past simple, study becomes studied, and you should put in your mind you have to delete the auxiliary does. At university, the complement of the sentence. She asked me what Layla studied at university. 3, where did my parents go? This sentence is in the past simple because of the auxiliary did. Our question began with the question word, followed by the auxiliary did, the subject, the main verb, which is the base. When we report it, it becomes I asked where my parents had gone. The subject I, followed by the verb asked, the question word, the subject, and then the verb, because remember, it is a statement, not a question. My parents is the subject, and had gone is the past perfect of the verb go, and delete the auxiliary did. Number 4, what is he watching? Present continuous. the question begins with the question word what, followed by verb to be is, the subject he, and the verb watch adding to it ing. When we report this question, we should write the subject, followed by the verb asked, the object pronoun, the question word, and the subject he, and the verb after change from present continuous to past continuous. I asked him what he was watching. Number 5. What was he or what was she wearing? Past continuous. Question word was plus subject plus verb plus ing. It becomes I asked what she had been wearing. The subject I followed by the verb asked, the question word, the subject she, had been, which is the past perfect simple of the verb was, and the verb adding to it ing, from past continuous to past perfect continuous. I asked what she had been wearing. 6. How many stories have you finished? Present perfect. Question word how many stories, followed by have the auxiliary and the subject you, and the third form of the verb finish, finished. Ali asked us how many stories we had finished. Ali is the subject, followed by the verb asked and the object pronoun us, question word, how many stories, we, the subject, and had finished is the past perfect simple of the verb have finished, from present perfect simple to past perfect simple. Number 7. Where will you travel? Future. Will. Our question began with the question word where plus will plus subject you and the base verb or the infinitive travel. After reporting, it becomes she asked me where I would travel. The subject she or he, the verb asked, me the object pronoun, or you can delete it, where the question word, the subject and then the verb, I, you changes to I, will becomes would, and the base verb travel. She asked me where I would travel. My dear daughters, after talking about the WH questions, let us talk about the yes-no questions. As you know all, that questions are divided into WH questions and yes-no questions. With yes-no questions, use the words if or whether. It's up to you to use if or whether after the reporting verb. Examples. Number 1. Do you like Indian food? This question is in the present simple because of the auxiliary do. Do, the auxiliary, followed by the subject and the main verb, which is infinitive, and the complement of the sentence, Indian food. When we report this question, it becomes the subject she or he, followed by asked and the word if, and the subject I, you changes to I. From present simple to past simple, like becomes liked, and the complement of the sentence, Indian food. She asked if I liked Indian food. Number 2. Has the lesson begun? Present perfect simple. How do we know that this question is in the present perfect simple? Because of the form, has or have, plus the third form of the verb. And because it is a question, so it began by the auxiliary has, followed by the subject, the lesson, and the third form of the verb began which is begun. After reporting, it becomes they asked whether the lesson had begun. The subject followed by the verb asked and the word whether or if. The subject, the lesson, had begun from present perfect simple to past perfect simple. Number 3. Are you studying hard for the exams? Present continuous. And because it is a question, so it began with the verb to be are followed by the subject and the verb study adding to it ing and the complement of the question. After reporting, it becomes the subject he followed by the verb asked and the word if or whether, and the subject we, you becomes we because it is a plural. We're studying from a present continuous to past continuous and the complement of the sentence. He asked if we were studying for the exam. Number 4. Have they been waiting for a long time? Present perfect continuous because of the form have or has plus been plus verb adding to it ing. When we want to report this question, we should write the subject first, he or she, followed by the verb asked and the word whether or if, the subject they, from present perfect continuous to past perfect continuous, had been waiting, and the complement of the sentence for a long time. Again, he asked whether they had been waiting for a long time. Number 5. Were the exercises easy? My teacher asked if the exercises had been easy. This question began with the verb to be were, and then the subject and the complement, which is an adjective. When we report this question, it becomes my teacher, the subject, followed by the verb asked. You put if or whether after it, the exercises, which is the subject, from past simple to past perfect simple, had plus been, the past participle of the verb were, and the complement of the sentence easy. My teacher asked if the exercises had been easy. The last sentence, can he dive in the river? Our question began with the auxiliary can or the modal verb can, followed by the subject and the base verb and the complement of the question. After reporting, it becomes his friend asked him if he could dive in the river. The subject followed by the verb asked, the object pronoun if, the subject, can becomes could, the base verb and the complement of the sentence.